Washington's wide receiver room is decimated. Josh Downs is out, and Marvin Harris Jr. is going to play. Every week with the amount of injuries that we get, it becomes more and more clear why I wait until Saturdays to do these start and sit videos through every matchup for the wide receiver position, and we're doing that for Week 7 fantasy football right now. And I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers working on a Saturday to get you this kind of content to help you win. So please go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now, our first matchup is the Los Angeles Rams and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the overseas game tomorrow morning. So make sure your lineup is set tonight or tomorrow morning early, because by the time you get up, I think this is actually going to be a very close game, because I don't think that either one of these teams has a tremendous leg up. I think the only leg up with Jacksonville is that they basically play at least one overseas game per year. So maybe they have a little bit of a leg up in that sense, but I do still think that Thursday nights you increase and improve and bump up the offensive ratings, and in these overseas games you rank those guys down, because everything we've seen would indicate that overseas games offenses come out flatter. They're unprepared. They're not prepared for the field conditions. The time change is screwing with them. It makes complete sense, and for that reason, the only guy I would say is must start is Davante Adams, and the only reason he's a must start is because, of course, Puka Nacua is out. So I do believe Davante Adams ends up having a really good day, because they're just going to need to throw to him more often than they've been throwing to him in recent weeks. And I get it. He's actually had plenty of work. It's really been the problem of chemistry with him and Matt Stafford. I think that improves a little bit this week. And either way, I'm just not going to sit Davante Adams when there's a bunch of other options I don't trust nearly as much. Brian Thomas Jr., I would still say is a high-end flex. I don't think that he's a must-start, though, because he's still dropping passes. His chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, still a bit of a work in progress. And again, this matchup right here, not the problem with the Rams, it's the problem with the overseas aspect here. So I get it, Brian Thomas Jr. and the Jags, they're used to playing these types of games, but I do still think that Brian Thomas Jr., you could do better than in certain circumstances, while I consider him a high-end start. And I would say Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington, there's a pretty big gap there. I would much rather play Tutu than Jordan Whittington, mostly because we haven't seen much of Jordan Whittington. We don't really know what his role is going to be. Whereas with Tutu Atwell, we know he's going to get some big play opportunities in this one. So I would rather take that shot on him than Jordan Whittington. And then the Jags receivers, if you want to torture yourself with Travis Hunter, be my guest. But I am not telling my audience to play him. I am sitting here waiting for anything to happen before I put him back in my lineup, and I'm not playing any of the other Jags options. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Minnesota Vikings is our next matchup. And of course, Justin Jefferson, you play him. You drafted him in the first round. He's not been bad. It just hasn't been tremendous. You continue to play Justin Jefferson without question. And A.J. Brown, I would say, is the best flex. Not super high end, though. I mean, I've been through this multiple weeks in a row. They're clearly wanting to get him the ball. Like, it's not a problem with target share. They want to get him the ball, and they want him to be happy, but he's not happy. The chemistry is clearly deteriorating, and it's just not working in Philly. So I will continue to play him as a high-ish end flex, but he is not a guy that I would play over Brian Thomas Jr., for example. I think that A.J. Brown still is going to have plenty of flaws, but maybe we start to see a floor start to stable out based off what we saw previous Thursday night against the Giants. Jordan Addison is a little bit ahead of Devonta Smith in my wide receiver rankings, so I will keep it like that in my start-sit category, because Jordan Addison, I think that this guy is just proving everyone wrong. Me mostly because I keep doubting the guy. I'm done doubting him. He's just a really good wide receiver too in the NFL, and regardless of whether the quarterback is great, and this week it's Carson Wentz, I think it's better than having J.J. McCarthy there. So I would play him over Devonta Smith, who obviously can be played in most situations as well. The New England Patriots at the Tennessee Titans is our next matchup, and this is one of those where there's no must-starts in this one. Stephon Diggs, I still do consider the better option than Kayshon Boutte. For a couple different reasons. Kayshon Boutte has not ever dominated the target share necessarily in New England, and Stephon Diggs has done it for a couple of different weeks. So he's questionable as of the time of this filming. We don't know if Stephon Diggs is going. I'm going to assume that he does, and if he does, I will play him over Boutte. But either way, I would play Boutte over both Titans options. Listen, they're just a dumpster fire. I mean, Cam Ward isn't playing good football. They just fired their head coach, which sometimes can cause a little bit of a confidence boost to the offense since they've been held back for so so long. But either way, the wide receivers in this matchup just not very trustworthy. No Calvin Ridley opens up opportunities for Elick Ayamaner and Van Jefferson, because Van Jefferson actually became the wide receiver one for Cam Ward last week. Do I think that continues this week? Probably not. I think Elick Ayamaner has shown the most chemistry with Cam Ward, so I would lean with playing him over Van Jefferson, but they're not that far off my rankings, but both of them are well below Kayshon Boutte. And I would also just go ahead and sit Demario Douglas. I don't think that last week is anything you could realistically count on a very consistent basis. The Carolina Panthers at the New York Jets, this is another gross one. I mean, you're going to play Tet in most situations. High-end flex, I'd play him over A.J. Brown, play him over Diggs, I'd play him over Brian Thomas Jr., but this is realistically a guy that, again, is just going to be capped. I mean, every week you don't know what you're going to get from Carolina's offense of Bryce Young. In theory, the matchup against the Jets defense, that should be a good one. So I want to play Tet. I just also understand that his ceiling is capped. But I would play him over these other Jets options. I mean, it's bad, man. I mean, the Jets options, it's Josh Reynolds and Arian Smith. And I'm going to go with Josh Reynolds because we've seen him before. Maybe Arian Smith ends up being the guy, but either way, I mean, Justin Fields, I don't know how he's going to throw for more than like 125 yards. I mean, even that seems like a little bit of a stretch. I think he'll do better than he did last week against the Broncos defense, which is much better than the Panthers. But he doesn't have his main guy, Garrett Wilson, so it's like, how are you supposed to expect him to do very well and target these receivers into oblivion like he always does with Garrett Wilson? I don't expect that. So I'll play Josh Reynolds. I'll sit Arian Smith. And then I'll also sit Jalen Coker, who I like a lot as a player individually. And I was big on him in the offseason. But I'm going to wait and see what actually happens with this one. Our next matchup is the Miami Dolphins at the Cleveland Browns here. And I think Jalen Waddle's a must start for sure. I don't consider him to be some tremendous play this week because Cleveland, I do think, is a relatively tough matchup. But everything remains the same in this Miami offense as long as McDaniel is still the coach. And that clock is ticking. But I do still think that there's value there with him as that head coach because he's targeting Waddle down the field more without Tyreek Hill. That's going to be enough to keep him in must-start territory most weeks rather than him being just a high-end flex. I would play Jalen Waddle for sure. And I still prefer Jerry Jeudy over Isaiah Bond. I think it's really close. I mean, this is a good one to post on the site as a start-sit poll. I don't really think there's too big of a difference here, but easily neither of these guys are high-end flexes. They're mid to low-end options. I mean, Cleveland's quarterback situation with Dylan Gabriel is a complete disaster. Nobody cares. They're going to target the tight end too. That's the guy you really want is Harold Fannin, the rookie tight end over in Cleveland. I would much rather play him than Jerry Jeudy or Isaiah Bond, who I think, again, are both flexible. And Malik Washington, again, you just can't play this guy until he starts to get targeted more down the field. The New Orleans Saints at the Chicago Bears is our next matchup, and I would say Rome Odunze still a must-start to me. I would definitely play him. I think that last week was a blip on his record this year, but if you look at the majority of his season, he's been clearly the wide receiver one for Caleb Williams. And I do think that this matchup against the Saints is one you want to take advantage of. Very simple for me. I'd play Rome over someone like Jalen Waddle, for example. Chris Olave, DJ Moore, Rashid Shaheed, they're all actually really close. This is a really good poll to post on FS Roundup. I prefer Olave because of the targets, but DJ Moore, again, in this matchup, could have room to have a pop game, and Rashid Shaheed is always good for an explosion once in a while. So again, let's post this poll right now. I'm going to go to FS Roundup, type in Chris Olave. I'm going to go to chat and then start a poll for week 7, and I'm going to add DJ Moore, and I'm going to add Rashid Shaheed to this as well. And let's see what the community says. Go vote on this poll. It's completely free to vote on this. I'm curious what the results are going to be of this poll. And if you want to start your own start-sit poll, also completely free to do this. But if you want access to the automatic waiver wire tool, which is winning people leagues in 2025, or want a team breakdown from me, that is behind the premium subscription. You also can get full access to my top 250 rankings on a weekly basis, which have been up to date as of today for the wide receivers who are missing week 7.
This is Ted. Look at him. Ted desperately needs to pick up a new running back, or his fantasy team is toast. For the 3rd year in a row. And losing his season again means one thing.
Oh no.
Don't be Ted. Use Fantasy Football Roundup to automate your waiver pickups and rest easy this season. Huh. Look at him.
Now, going to our next matchup, it's the Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm playing Rashee Rice. You drafted this guy. You held on to him. He's going to be a game changer for you. Again, it may not be the week. I've said this over the week. I think I'd be surprised to see him get more than 7 targets in this one. Not only because they just seem like they'd probably want to ease him back in, but also because they just don't need him to do very much. They're going to beat the brakes off the Raiders this week. So it's not like they're going to need to throw deep into the fourth quarter and have Rashee Rice go over the middle for a key third down with 5 minutes left in the game. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Rashee Rice is going to have this little window where he is going to be important for them the first several drives of the game, but after that, it just falls down, and I think that Rashee Rice is going to have better weeks, but I'm still going to play him this week. Xavier Worthy, I think, is a high-ish end flex, and I would say Trey Tucker is right there with him. We're going to be missing Brock Bowers once again, and in all likelihood, Jacoby Myers as well. As of the time of this filming, we don't know if he's going. I kind of think that he just doesn't want to play for them anymore and is refusing to go. Not saying he's not injured, but I think that has a lot to do with it. So I would say Trey Tucker at this point needs to be viewed as the wide receiver 1 in Las Vegas, a very playable option on a weekly basis. If this guy's on your waivers, utilize our automatic waiver wire tool and go grab Trey Tucker immediately. But I would still play Worthy over Tucker just because of the offensive dominance I think we will see from Kansas City this week. But that's the extent. I'm not going to play Jack Betch. I'm not going to play Hollywood Brown this week. I'll keep those guys on the bench. But maybe, particularly with Jack Betch, there's future weeks without Jacoby Myers that have potential to be fantasy goodness. The Indianapolis Colts at the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is a heavy, heavy flex game. I don't think any of them are must start, but at the same time, I want in on these options. The only reason there's no must starts is because with the Chargers room, everybody understands what this room looks like. Now, I will say, I think Ladd is the guy that you want over QJ at this point. I think Ladd just not coming off the injury, the chemistry starting to come back with Justin Herbert, and I do think that I would rather have him at this point over QJ, but it's not that far off. I think QJ is the better play than Pittman and Keenan Allen. I think Quentin Johnston is always going to have that downfield opportunity to get in the end zone and just to go for a 50-yard bomb down the field. So in this matchup against the Colts, not exactly the greatest matchup because the Colts defense has been very good with Lou Anarumo as the defensive coordinator, but I do still think it's an opportunity you want because this could be a shootout low-key. And then Pittman, the only reason he's not above all these other guys and in must-start territory anymore is because this has been bubbling underneath the surface all year, but it was ignored by so many people, including myself, because he seemed like a very consistent touchdown threat. Well, last week he didn't get in the end zone, and what we saw bubbling under the surface finally made its way up to the surface, which is he does not have that great of a target share. He's not getting that many targets on a per-game basis, and it's inconsistent when he gets, 8 or 9 targets over Keenan, because Keenan, on the other hand, actually does have a very consistent target share, and Justin Herbert will continue to utilize him, but Keenan is, of course, just an older player, and he looks like he's slowing down a little bit. So I think Keenan Allen is a little bit of a riskier play, but still one that I would play over Xavier Worthy or even Trey Tucker. And Alec Pierce is a deep shot. Without Josh Downs, this has a lot of possibilities to work, but obviously this guy is not the full route tree guy that Josh Downs is. If you're going to get any production from Pierce, it's going to come off a big play. But I would much rather play him over Adonai Mitchell, who I would bench in this game. The New York Giants at the Denver Broncos. Very similar situation. You've got a bunch of flexible options, but there's definitely a teardrop here. I play Cortland Sutton definitely over Wan'Dale Robinson. Definitely. I think Cortland Sutton could easily have a massive game because he is the clear wide receiver 1. Denver's offense has talent and has that explosion ability, but I've been saying this all week. 2 things bother me with the Broncos this week. Number 1, the Giants have legitimate energy right now. They've got momentum, and they've got confidence behind their 2 young stars, Cam Skattebo and Jackson Dart. That matters, man. So you can go into a place like Denver, one of the hardest places to play in the NFL, and legitimately make them look bad. I think it's very possible. And the number 2 problem I have with this is that, listen, The Denver Broncos offense has not looked sharp this year. They have had so many opportunities where they could have done so much better in games, and their quarterback, Bo Nix, is not playing up to his full ability right now. So I think there's room for this one to not work, and I just have a feeling they won't be as good. So I don't have Sutton as a must-start, but I would play him over Wandale, who I do think is a good flex. I think Wandale is a flex I would play over A.J. Brown for certain circumstances. I think Wandale is going to have plenty of moments in this game, mostly because I actually don't fear him with Pat Surtain. I think Pat Surtain is going to be on Lil Jordan Humphrey more than he will be with Wandale Robinson, because Wandale is mostly a slot guy. I don't see Pat Surtain following around Wandale all day, so I think he still has plenty of opportunities. But there is a significant teardrop between Wandale and Troy Franklin. That's a massive teardrop. Troy Franklin is a mid to low end flex option. Absolutely can be played because the matchup in theory is good. But again, Denver's offense, I don't trust it right now. And Pat Bryant, keep your eye on him. His snap count is increasing. While I still think Troy Franklin is the wide receiver 2 right now, keep an eye on that one. And Lil Jordan Humphrey, again, in theory could be played if you're desperate and you just need a deep shot. Jackson Dart, the way he's playing, I don't put it past him to have a decent day with Lil Jordan Humphrey, but I think he'll receive the brunt of the coverage from Pat Surtain, so I would try to stay away from him if possible. The Green Bay Packers at the Arizona Cardinals is our next matchup, and again, there's no must-starts. Marvin Harrison Jr., though, was cleared to go for this game, so he's going to play, and it's not with Kyler, so make of that what you will. I have these guys back to back in my full rankings, not just my wide receiver rankings. My overall top 250 rankings this week, Marvin Harrison Jr., Romeo Doubs, and Matthew Golden are each back to back in my rankings. Order them how you want. I prefer Marvin because he's the lone guy, but Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden honestly probably have the same level of upside. This is going to be a game where I think Green Bay definitely handles the Cardinals with ease in this one. And Romeo Doubs, of course, has the touchdown upside and the chemistry, but Matthew Golden starting to make a name for himself and emerge in this offense. Order these guys how you want. This is how I prefer it, but it is that close to where they're back to back in my rankings. And Wicks is already questionable in this game. They have no Christian Watson again, so he can be played, but I would definitely not play him over those other 3 guys. And I'm going to go ahead and bench the Arizona Cardinals wide receivers since Marvin is available. Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys. Gear up for this one and fire up your Dallas receivers because CeeDee Lamb is back, and I don't think it affects George Pickens that much. Pickens is still a top 12 play to me. You play both these guys with ease. This one has legitimate 60-point potential for both teams to have 30-plus points. You want options in this one. And it makes it tough because all the wide receivers in Washington, out. Deebo Samuel, ruled out today. Terry McLaurin, already been ruled out. And Noah Brown has been out for a long time. That means that I prefer Luke McCaffrey in this game, and then Jalen Lane, and then Chris Moore, who I think actually has sneaky upside in this game. Luke McCaffrey's my favorite. I think he's been the best this year out of the bunch. He's clearly a big play threat. He could easily get in the end zone in a high-flying matchup. Jalen Lane, been more of a special teams guy, but opportunity is presenting itself for him to get more opportunities in this one. I think he's looked good on limited touches. I'll play him over Chris Moore, but Chris Moore is right there, right behind Jalen Lane in my rankings this week. So I think that they're all playable. I definitely prefer Luke McCaffrey over the other two, but those other two guys, mid-tier flex options because this matchup, once again, could easily be a massive shootout. And I'm going to go ahead and bench Illinois, even though it is going to be a shootout, because CD and Pickens and Jake Ferguson, I think, will dominate the target share in this offense. The Atlanta Falcons at the San Francisco 49ers are Sunday night matchup. Drake London is obviously a must-start. Darnell Mooney may be back, may not be back. I don't really care. I'm not playing Darnell Mooney either way, but I'm definitely playing Drake London, who dominated the freaking target share in Atlanta without Darnell Mooney. So I'm sure they want him back for a team, but I don't care. I'm playing Drake London 100% of the time. And Kendrick Bourne, I would play him over Jawan Jennings. Listen, Mac Jones is out again. Ricky Pearsall is out again. The only thing that's in his way right now is Kittle is making his return. He will eat into Kendrick Bourne's workload. I have no question about that. But Mac Jones is still favoring Kendrick Bourne. because of their chemistry in New England. So I would play him over Juwan Jennings, who is also dealing with tons of injuries himself. He's going to play, but he's dealing with so many injuries. Broken ribs, he's got an ankle injury. This guy is not healthy. I don't want anything to do with him personally, but I do think he's flexible to a certain extent, but not one I would play over Luke McCaffrey at this point, for example. I would play Luke over him. Absolutely, I would play Wan'Dale Robinson over him. Kendrick Bourne, to me, the bottom line is that this is the guy that you want in San Francisco still. As long as Mac Jones is quarterback, I think that he has legitimate upside on a weekly basis while Ricky Pearsall is out. So he is the wide receiver that you want and a high-end flex at that. One of the Monday night doubleheaders, Tampa Bay at Detroit. Who is asking for the doubleheaders on Monday night? Until someone answers that question, I'm going to keep asking, and I'm not going to stop. This one is a great game. I mean, Tampa Bay at Detroit, tons of injuries, and it bothers me so bad because Monday night is the worst time to have a questionable tag, and two of them do. In fact, two of them are labeled as game time decisions. First of all, you play Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the guy that you want to play now over both Tampa options is Jameson Williams, because at least we know that he's going to play. Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka, true game time decisions, terrifies me. Unless you have Sterling Shepard, unless you have Tez Johnson, you can't realistically do this one. But if you do have those options, Emeka Egbuka is the guy I prefer, and then Mike Evans is right behind him, not too far back. And of course, if both of them play, or even one of them play, Sterling Shepard and Tez Johnson are mid-tier flex options. But if neither of them play, those guys are higher-end flex options. Sterling Shepard remains the guy that I would want personally because of the chemistry with Baker Mayfield that dates all the way back to Oklahoma. That matters a lot. So I would pick Sterling Shepard if it was between him and Tez Johnson alone, but I'm not convinced both these guys miss. Maybe they both miss, but I don't know. They're both game time calls. Very risky. You can only do this if you have options in these Monday night doubleheaders. And then the last one, Houston, Texas at Seattle. Another one of those that seems pretty straightforward, luckily, because we've had a lot of them that are very, very hard to deal with. JSN, Nico Collins, you fire them up. And I would still play Torrey Horton a little bit over Cooper Kupp because I still think his role is developing. But Cooper Kupp is a fine flex option. Christian Kirk, though, is questionable in this game. I think he's actually not going to go. So for that reason, I'd play Xavier Hutchinson and Jaden Higgins as low-end flexes. So let me know what your wide receiver room looks like in Week 7. And if you want to see the full top 30 wide receiver rankings for Week 7 fantasy football, click on this video right here.